Welcome to Schein Chats. I'm Phil Cassis, Director of Business Solutions for Schein Commercial Services. Today, I'm thrilled to be alongside my friend, Christi Billquist, Director of Operations for Unitas PPO Solutions. Dental insurance and PPO negotiations are two of the hottest topics in dentistry. Today, we'll tackle those topics and discuss other dental insurance trends that should be on your radar in 2023. Christi, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Great to see you, Phil.
All right, well, Christi, let's dive right in. As you know, dental insurance is sometimes difficult to navigate for dental professionals. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the practitioner of the practice. What's your biggest concern for dental practices in 2023 in terms of dental insurance?
Well, in talking about the sole practitioner, usually non-DSO type practice, it would be deciding whether to stay in network and to really focus on your fees and your participation and making some decisions on where your practice should go this year related to your insurance participation.
Excellent. And keep it in terms of that, because we see this a lot. A lot of dentists are out there wanting to part ways with insurance and choose to go fee for service. What guidance or advice would you give to those practices?
Well, I think what's even more common than even just the ultimate fee for service goal is just to consider just even dropping some and getting on the pathway to fee for service, because it's definitely a process. I think it's super difficult for a practice to just transition to fee for service in a quick manner. So I think we're seeing a lot more education out there. I think there's a lot more chatter with dentists sharing their experiences that even just give people a possibility that, oh, maybe I should consider dropping some of my lower paying plans after an attempt to see if we can raise those fees or work with the insurance company to say, hey, I need something a little bit more in line with what my cost of doing business is. And so if they're not getting a satisfactory fee, they really need to take a look at that and say, am I even making money off of this patient or off of this plan if it's so low? And then, for practices that are thriving and booked out, does it make sense to be a network with lower plans and fill that precious chair time with break even reimbursements? Right. And, so I think we're seeing a lot of encouragement in the dental community between each other of, hey, I did this and it worked, or like I said, maybe not even going fee for service, but evaluating, maybe I should, if I'm booked out, maybe I should consider reserving that chair time for things that are paying me a little bit better.
Yeah, going fee for service is a little bit easier said than done, right? And
for sure.
For the reality is most practices now in the U.S. and most markets are insurance-driven practices. What's your recommendations for a lot of these insurance-driven practices on how they can increase their reimbursement rates?
Well, certainly what we do is very straightforward negotiations with PPOs. It kind of ebbs and flows whether they're allowing increases. It depends on your market area. It depends on saturation of dentists. Depends how bad they want you. There's a lot of factors that go into whether or not a PPO is willing to entertain a fee review for their providers. But the general rule is the ones that do negotiate will do a fee review every 2 years. Negotiations are pretty straightforward. It's really just a matter oftentimes of asking for it. So just keeping up on that and being persistent. You may have worked with a certain rep at one PPO before and they're no longer there. And so you're waiting to hear back and you never do because they're not there anymore. And so it can be a little bit of a commitment to really focus on those negotiations and keep up with it and follow up and things like that. But also understanding your participation. It is a constant, we call it a moving target of how you can be in network, because PPOs are leasing to each other, and then they're also leasing from network umbrella companies. And that can be really great for a provider, or it could be detrimental depending on how they're in network. There's some out there, you can literally be in network 10 different ways. And so you can imagine the range in fees that is going to exist there for you to be in network. And then obviously, with being in network through a third party, while the fee might be higher, you might not get all patients, or it might come with some frustration over bouncing from one third party to another. So it's really important that offices, we have an audit that we provide. I recommend 4 steps to a PPO audit, and the beginning of the year is always a great time to do this, is make sure you have your current fee schedules and that those are what's in your practice management software. And then pay attention. If your EOBs start processing under fees that are different, especially lower than what you had, that's red alert. Let's figure out what's going on and try and get back to where you were, or figure out if there's a better solution, because that is the downside of the third party representation, is as new relationships exist or go away, it could shift to something else, which again, might be a good thing, but might not be. We also see if you have multiple providers at a location, they're very likely participating differently. Just making an effort to keep up on everything. They're making it easier with portals and things like that for you to access your fees, and just spot check EOBs and watch for when something looks off in how you're getting paid.
Yeah, the optimization piece is one of the most critical parts, as you know, to increasing your rates and your reimbursements. And that's the part that so many private practices are just challenged with, because they don't have the data and the resources to do it effectively. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the benefits sometimes of going in network with PPOs. One of those is case acceptance. How does the number of PPOs accepted on a practice affect the case acceptance rate?
I think it definitely affects it. I've definitely read reports how it makes patients feel more confident. There's this perception of my dentist is going to rip me off, or is going to charge me all this money or whatever. By some, I think there's a lot that have a great trust relationship with their dentist, but I think just to overcome that general feeling of, what am I going to pay for this treatment? To know that that's kind of been corralled by what their perception of insurance is. We all know dental insurance is its own unique form of the definition of insurance. But offices can do a good job of educating patients to understand what their insurance is, what it isn't, and assure them of the care that they're getting, and that the cost is controlled by the insurance company. And so they can accept that treatment with confidence, knowing I'm getting the best price. I have this coverage that's going to help pay for it. And I think it really increases case acceptance and loyalty to that dentist, because it kind of helps them have that trust a little bit more.
Absolutely. And that's so important having that patient trust when you're talking about case acceptance with your practices.
And money, anything money, of course, is helpful for them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask, what other resources within the dental community do you follow out there? Do you see value in, as far as helping practices recover or increase their reimbursement rates with dental insurance?
Well, there's definitely some great products out there on the market, for sure. eAssist, if you want help with your billing, and it also helps catch some of the participation aspect. There's some crossover there of, if claims are processing out of network, all of a sudden, do we have an issue with, did we forget to do a recred, or what happened? What is this going on? Yeah. And it's kind of a second set of eyes and a security blanket. Your office staff is so busy. And so to have somebody that is their job, to make sure that these claims are processing correctly, you're getting the right reimbursement, you're getting it in a timely manner, all of that. eAssist can be a super valuable resource in kind of being that safety net, along with helping process the claims. And then definitely Practice Booster. We get coding questions all the time, and that's outside of our wheelhouse. And so we always say, hey, order that Coding with Confidence book from Dr. Blair. And that's a gold mine of help out there when it comes to any coding questions. So you're not leaving money on the table or frustrated because you can't get a claim paid because you're not sure everything that is supposed to be included, things like that. So those are definitely good resources. I know that there's also a lot of Facebook groups, chapter groups, ADOM, things like that are super good resources. I always just say, be a little bit careful about the information that you get. There is a ton of good experience and support there for sure, but always be a little careful, especially if it sounds too good to be true. And some things can be unique to a practice that if it happened there, great, but it might not be something that's the norm for you to expect. So I would just say, always just vet a little bit where the information's coming from, maybe double check it with another source, and contribute. If you have good experience or good information, definitely contribute to those groups and help support each other and what you have going on at your practice.
Christi, thank you so much. This was great, especially as the dental insurance landscape continues to evolve and change. We see that just happening year over year. We appreciate you joining us and giving us your insights and your expertise. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Phil.